said the same thing. I told her today, I was like, what time will we leave? And the shot has me effed up. And she's like, what are you doing taking shots? I'm like, come on. Yeah.
Oh, let me go look at it. It must look horrendous.
It doesn't. It looks fine, man. Some of these guys about cable management are just like way over the edge. I'm like, look, no cable management ever cost anybody 5 frames. Y'all need to calm the F down.
Oh my God. Yeah. It ain't that bad.
Yeah.
It ain't that bad. They probably looking at that wad of that wad of cables underneath his next to his power supply. That you can see in the picture. That you can definitely see that's where he stuffed off the cables. Oh man, that's why I'm happy that my case it has I have the Corsair case, so it has enough space. desks are probably 72 feet long. 72 feet, that's right, 72 feet. Yeah, so 72 inches long, so 6 feet. To make them look super nice on the back of the PC. So I need probably like another 3 feet of cable. So I'm thinking about going to Amazon and just ordering like slightly longer cable. See, now this is what I be talking about. Slow-mo is late. See, he gonna come here and say, man, I was using boo-boo here, so being a child. Hope you're alright. There he is. So Logic's joining us today, and he just hit us up with the thing, and I was like, oh yeah, come through, bro.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, if y'all could hear Forte yelling in my ear right now. Welcome to Damage Per Second Podcast, episode 172. We are back on a fine Thursday night. I wish I could say we was feeling all right, but we a little late. You know, my apologies on that. You know, family and everything. That's not an excuse. It's my fault. But we are back here. This I don't know. You know what? Can't nobody hear him right now? I'm gonna keep the guest on mute for a moment because Forte is out here being slanderous and ridiculous right now. Very unprofessional. But we ain't gonna worry about that. I do have to unmute you at some point. You can say whatever you want then. But in the meantime, again, like I said, episode 172. So glad to have y'all here. So glad to have our guest here, who I will introduce in a second. Shout out to Michi Dies a lot. John Wolf in the house. Him and his ROG ally are here. Ramon Terrell, Mr. Trevor Birdsong, Mr. Hallmark Channel Extraordinaire. That guy Smitty, your boy Roy, Arcade in the house. What's up, man? Texas, Lucius Augustus in the house. That's what's up. Appreciate you guys and my co-host, Mr. Gamer Forte. What's up, man?
Am I unmuted?
You are unmuted.
I'm free to talk now.
You are free to say whatever you feel.
Let me clear my throat. Pause. But yeah, I'm great, man. It's good to be here. Chilling with you, man. I was telling you in behind the scenes that it's great to be able to not have to worry about hosting, because your boy was out and about running around, and I was like, I got to get home. And then I was like, oh, I ain't hosting. I can stay out longer. And I went on a what was it? A 1.5 mile route. Man, so I have fallen deep into the Pokemon Go situation. It's like part for health and part just because.
But don't fall off a cliff trying to chase a Mewtwo or something or whatever the heck.
If it was a Charizard, I probably would, because that's like the greatest Pokemon ever. But no, that game has got me more in. It's like, I don't know what it is about it, but I like it more because it gets me out and about walking around more than anything, because especially since I've been going to the gym and stuff more. Love it. And I hate running on treadmills, so I refuse to run on a treadmill. So I was like, okay, so I could play this game and like walk around. And I had a couple of tasks that said, oh, you got to walk this route. And I was like, okay, well, how long is this route? And this route was like 1.5 miles. I was like, oh my God. So I did that right after I got off work today. And then that's when I looked at the clock and was like, oh man, I got to get home. And then I was like, oh no, I don't host. So I can stay out longer and catch some more Pokemon. But outside of that, man, it's been great. Just playing other games and stuff. Battlefield season 7 started day before yesterday. So I jumped in and played some of that. Got a little bit further in Final Fantasy. So, it's been really good. Watched that episode 8 of Halo when I texted this morning, and that was interesting. But
yeah, I haven't watched it yet. I'm really not very enthused too. I did watch something else that I was pleasantly surprised at how good it was. I'll talk about it when it's my turn. What,
something about Star Wars and how great it really is?
No, I said I'll talk about it later after you're done and we introduce the guests and everything. Then I'll talk about it.
Well, with that being said, man, I'm pretty much done. But I really appreciate you and all the work you put into just our friendship in this channel in general. But that's it.
Oh, thank you, man. Appreciate that. And Mr. GameLogiq is here. What's going on, Logic?
Hey yo, what's going on?
What you been up to, man?
Gaming wise?
Yeah, gaming wise, entertainment wise. Talk about what you've been watching or whatever. It's all good.
The whole nerd stuff, right? So so I've been playing Call of Duty, Modern Warfare 3 on PC.
All right.
Weapons unlocks stuff. I let lay fallow from Modern Warfare 2. Love the map rotation. I love the fact that maybe this was there before, but I just
Question for you. Some of the weapons, and I remember in Modern Warfare 2, some of the weapons, like in order to even unlock them, you had to go kind of like down a weapon unlock path. Like you had to unlock this weapon. Sometimes it'd be like unlock this marksman rifle to be able to have the opportunity to unlock. Right. Now, in Modern Warfare 3, if you're playing in 3, you can still level those weapons up. Do you if you're in 3, do you still have those weapon progressions, or is it just, hey, look, it's locked. If you want to unlock it, is there a different thing? Because I haven't even attempted, because I haven't even really, like, the only Modern Warfare 2 weapons I've used have been the ones I already had unlocked. I haven't even looked at the ones that were still locked. So how does that work? Is it still the same?
Yeah, so I mean, I will admit I don't like consciously look at the weapons to see if they're Modern Warfare 2 weapons or 3. What I will say is like a big difference in the UI is in Modern Warfare 2, so the whole thing, so Modern Warfare 2 was built around the notion of weapons platforms, right? So a given like chassis for a weapon, right? You would have kind of this baseline chassis, and then that chassis might fork into 2 or 3 other weapons branches. And that was like the thing that you were talking about, where I got to unlock, this marksman rifle, and then that will unlock this variant that is actually a submachine gun, and so forth. So you still, as far as I can tell, you still have that in the game, but they don't represent it like that in the UI. It will just be, like, I think I mentioned on another show, something they're going to eventually have to do something about is like assault rifles, which are obviously the most popular weapon in the game. There's something ridiculous. There's 30, 40 something like assault rifles, right? They horizontally scroll at the bottom of the screen. So it's like you literally go down there, like scroll forever to see like all of the assault rifles. Because what they do now is that fork might still be there, but you won't see it on like the roadmap for a given weapons chassis. What you'll do is you'll go down, you'll see that a weapon's locked. I think either when you click on it or maybe just by hovering over it, it will say, hey, to unlock this weapon, you gotta level this other weapon up to level 13 or whatever. So that's still effectively there, it's just not represented the same.
Gotcha. All right, well, Modern Warfare 3, is that all you've been playing?
Oh, no, bro, I got a list. That was just the start of it. so having fun with that. What was the thing I was going to say about that? One thing that I love, and maybe this has been there for a while, I just hadn't noticed it before. I love, and I wish every PvP shooter would do this, I love that the map rotation for a mode is just like right there on the screen. So if you go to like the multiplayer type events, the 6v6, you go into that menu, and right there on the screen is the 12 or it's the 16 maps or whatever that are in rotation. I wish like every PvP shooter would do that, so you wouldn't have to dive like 3-4 levels down into the UI to figure out what maps are in rotation. It just seems like something that should be right there at the surface. But I've been playing that. I've been playing No Man's Sky on PC.
Really?
Yeah. Having a lot of fun with that, because every time I've gone back to that game, I've just like toe dipped, and I haven't really focused on getting back to it and kind of keeping the campaign going for a while.
What's the draw to going back to No Man's Sky now? I understand like they at one point in time they finally kind of like delivered on the promise of what the game was supposed to be before it launched, and then after that, like I kind of really haven't paid attention to what's going on with No Man's Sky. But like, so what's the draw to keep you going back to it?
The draw for me is, this is super personal, so I know everybody's not gonna like feel the same, but like the draw for me is just I just feel like I've never spent like enough time in the game. Like I spent enough time in the game to understand like what the game was and what it was about, but I've never like spent like dedicated time. So listening to my man Forte, the brother Forte, and what he's been preaching, I've been focusing on backlog gaming, and I'm not wrapped around the axle about playing new games right now this year. So, and in particular, because it's the type of game that I really love, and it's the type of game that I would play were it not, quite honestly, were it not for like podcasting and blogging and feeling like I need to keep up, right, with the stuff that comes out and be able to discuss that. So the types of games that I really like are the types of games that kind of never end, right? The game itself is kind of like a career of its own. Probably one of my favorite games, I think I mentioned this last night ever, was Sid Meier's Pirates, because I would play Sid Meier's Pirates like for days, right? Living the life of my pirate, and just constantly, playing through that content and living in that world. So I've really been spending a lot of time going back to games like that, and we'll probably continue to do so more this year. That's why I was spending time like with Microsoft Flight Simulator like last month. But yeah, so I've been hitting that. I've been playing, been going back to play Metro Exodus on PC, the enhanced edition. I'm not sure if the sale is still going on, but I think I was trying to tell people like, look, if you haven't played Metro Exodus, that game with the enhanced edition, with the gold edition, which includes the 2 DLC packs, was like for sale on Steam and the Epic Game Store for like $7.99. So that's like 30 plus hours of content, with like if you have the PC to run it, with pretty, in my opinion, amazing graphical content.
Yeah, they were definitely one of the first adopters for ray tracing, and good ray tracing, not like trash. Hey, we just got some ray trace shadows. It's just like what did you bother for at that point?
Well, that's what the whole that's what the whole enhanced edition is. It is a like they just assaulted ray tracing, right, and took it on. And there's like 4, 5, 6 like specialized like methodologies that they went back and specifically optimized and improved on, to get the game kind of up to snuff with you know, the way they like it. And since it just kind of sprung into my mind because, of course, 4A Studios is one of the studios that, you know, made the Exodus out of Jerusalem, along with Saber Interactive, right, in their departure from Embracer. So,
right.
You know, and I talked a little bit about that on my show, on my channel, just kind of going back through the history of 4A Studios and GSC Game World and, you know, that whole thing. So yeah, so I've been going back and playing that. And then last night just started playing, Ramon was talking to me about this today, Grid Autosport on the Nintendo Switch. And that's just because, again, I want to play these games that just kind of never end. I think people know I'm a big, huge racing game fan. Last night when we got off Brat Podcast, like at that time of night, look, I'm either going to play Call of Duty or a racing game because I just need something that's no muss, no fuss. I know that I'm going to get some entertainment out of. I can play for 30 minutes or so and then get to bed. And my PCs that I normally play Call of Duty on are set up now to do some game capture. So I was like, well, I'm not going to bother with that tonight. But so like I said, I turned on my Nintendo Switch LCD in docked mode and played some Grid Autosport. So I had some fun with that.
Cool.
You actually played a bunch of stuff.
Yeah.
And actually before the podcast, when I was at my daughter's swim practice, I took my Steam Deck and I was playing Deep Rock Galactic while she was at swim practice.
Oh, cool.
You ain't want to watch your daughter do the breaststroke.
Just like she out here winning, and he just like, what happened?
He up here like, what happened?
I said swim practice.
Well, she still can win in swim practice. It's still a competitive thing when you're out there racing against your
Forte. You don't win practice. Come on, man.
Yes, you do.
You're trying to hyperbole your joke in order to make it go
Logic.
We're not doing that.
Logic over here sounding like Allen Iverson now, man. He said it's practice. We over here talking about practice.
What do you mean? Practice is how you get on practice is how you make it into the meets. You ain't practicing good. You ain't
talking about practice. Practice? Yeah. So look,
the coach gets paid. That's his hour to do his thing and my hour to do my thing.
Yeah. So you ain't out there go baby, go get on the team.
No. We don't. No. This is
you don't want to embarrass her. I got you.
Well, quite honestly, it's a how do I want to say it? So the swim team she's a part of is
I already know where this is going.
Well, no, it's the league that's like the intake funnel for the Olympic swim team. And I'm not saying she's an Olympic swimmer, but I'm saying that's the program she's in. So like a lot of carrying on her practice is not. No. Yeah.
So I know what you mean. I know what you
they want complete silence. They want no.
Yeah,
parents, be quiet. We don't want no interruptions or nothing like that. Yeah,
right.
I got you.
Man, my first year, my daughter does marching band. So, well, not marching band this year. She does regular band right now. And last year was her first year. And they were like, we're from Detroit, we're from Detroit. So, when your kids is out there doing great, you're gonna be like, yeah, that's my daughter, blah, blah, blah. Then my father-in-law was there and everything. So they get real animated when, their grandkids do stuff. So they even said right before they did their winter festival last year, it's like, okay, hold all your applause until after we're done. We want to make sure that everybody gets recognized at the same way, all the different classes and stuff. Let me tell you, man, of course, I'm sitting up there looking at the stand. I'm like, there's a lot of African Americans here. This ain't gonna go down too well. And as soon as they start, like, yes, me. I was like, oh my God. I was embarrassed. I was like, man, they just told you not to do that. But, you know, sometimes you can't hold it in. And guess what? It ain't just African American thing. I saw the Caucasians out there too. Like, that's my baby. That's what I'm talking about. You go get him, John. You go get him. It was great, man. I love it. I love how parents get super excited when it comes to their kids. Not saying you living through your kids, because a lot of people do think, you know, you're only like that because you're living vicariously through your kids. Like, no, I'm living through my kid because my kid is amazing and I made that, and it's awesome.
Yeah, it's good to be proud, man.
To quote Dave Chappelle before we transition back to gaming, you came out of my balls, man. Like what you talking about? You know, I made that. Like I always think about when parents say that. I think about Dave Chappelle talking about how fascinated he was that his son came out of his balls. Anyway, look, moving on.
And if I was another comedian, I would have been like, "Yep," and it was the slowest one that came out of your balls.
Hey,
what?
So you also wanted me to talk about what I'm watching. Have you guys watched Doom Patrol?
Yes.
Yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons. I didn't watch the rest after that. I just kind of got busy with things. Never got back to it.
Yeah, that series is out there, so I can totally understand how people wouldn't stay on board with it. But that's what
it gets weird. Like the whole part where there was like a mass like orgasm bomb or something. I was just like, I mean, it was funny, but at the same time, I was like, this is so weird. Like this entire show is so weird.
You know, the funny thing about weird shows, that we got to get to the show. The funny thing about weird shows is I went back because I never ever finished watching Lost season 7 because it went so far off the rails. I was like, I'm not.
It ain't worth going back to. I
went back to go and try. I was like, okay, where did I leave off at? I think it was like episode 4 of season 7. I left off, and I said, let me go back. I still remember the plot. I remember what plot really, but I remember the story, the characters. I turned it back on. I was like, wow, this looks dated. And then I was like, oh no, this is why I stopped watching. It's terrible, and I just turned it off, bro. So. Yeah, it was rough. I can't even watch that show no more, man. They disappointed me so bad.
Yeah,
getting a season. We just had so many hopes for that show too.
Yeah. For myself, just real quick. I've really only been playing one thing, and that has been Final Fantasy VII Rebirth.
Two things.
What's the other thing?
Halo.
Well, one night. Yeah, I mean, for a couple hours.
And it was the only night too, because I was like, what's really going on tonight?
Man, the cheaters was out, man. They had I won't even call it Cronus and Zims. This was some other stuff. It was some things going on. People was seeing through walls. They were seeing my IP address, my bank account. They were seeing everything. They had every hack you can think of going. It was freaking ridiculous. Anyway. Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, I beat that last night. It took me about 76 hours to beat it. And I'm not saying that's how long it takes to beat the game. You could beat it quicker, but I was really invested in a lot of the side content. I didn't do everything, but like that Queen's Blood storyline, it was just, it fascinated me. I had to keep going. Once I've really started to get Queen's Blood and the strategy to it, by the way, if Square Enix doesn't make that, Square Enix has been trying to find their live service game. If they don't do what CDPR did with Gwent for Queen's Blood, they're complete idiots. Like, I mean, Queen's Blood is that good. And I can definitely see people wanting to go head to head with other people in Queen's Blood because it's like, it's a simple card game, but it's got a lot of strategy involved in it. And I think it would definitely work. And so I went down the rabbit hole of the Queen's Blood storyline, which has turned out to be pretty good. And after that, I was like, okay, it's time to finally beat the game. So I beat the game. The ending, if you were confused by the ending of Remake, you have seen nothing yet. Oh my, like I just kind of like, I beat the game and I just sat there for a moment like, okay, WTF is going on here? I don't know. So I had to look at a couple of videos of people explaining it, and I think I get it. Yet at the same time, I don't quite think everyone who thinks they got it themselves. I think I got a like 85% understood of what happened and why it happened, and the other 15% is just like, okay, how I feel. I haven't sorted how I feel, but it's not where I would go with the story, and I'll because I'm trying to say how I feel without spoiling anything, and I don't want to get into specifics because there are people who are still playing the game and people who haven't beat it yet or haven't started it yet and plan on beating it. So, and it's still fairly new. I don't want to spoil the game. It's just that where they took it, I wasn't quite feeling it, and then I kind of wonder like how crazy the last part's going to be, because the last part's probably going to be insane.
So you beat it, and my whole thoughts of this was, where are they going to end this part of the game? Because it's really no real good part to end. I mean, there's some candidates out there, but there's really no real good way to end this game in the middle to set up the third one. Are you at least satisfied? I mean, like you said, probably don't like the direction they're going in, but are you satisfied at least on how it ended? How they ended this game?
The ending is very well done. I'll say that. Okay. Where the direction they're going, I don't know if I care for the direction that they're going. So it's
okay, got you.
But what they did in this game, like the side content isn't throwaway, whatever side content that they had in Remake. The combat in Remake was very good, and they just took that and just like, hey, how do we make it even better? They somehow figure out how to do that. The side content's awesome. I'm sorry, the combat is awesome. And I just like, my two negatives are that the visuals, it's like there was never a mode that I could really jive with. The performance mode was too blurry, but at least it kept the 60 FPS the whole time. Actually, not the whole time, because if you get with Yuffie and if you use Yuffie correctly, oh man, it is like a fireworks show. It just like take 5 Jubilees from X-Men and just have her just throwing fireworks everywhere. And you could imagine how the PlayStation 5 was like, really, bro? Come on, man. Like, it was just like, I can't hang with all this. Couldn't keep up and keep it at 60 FPS. But outside of that, it stayed at 60 FPS the whole time. 30 FPS is never going to be cool with me. But at least 30 FPS visually, if someone is satisfied with 30 FPS, that visually it look fine. Of course they come out with the patch I've been waiting for. Literally, as I'm going through the ending, I see the tweet that the patch for performance mode visuals is out, and I'm just like, of course. So after I beat the game, I downloaded, installed the patch, so it looks better. It's not as sharp as on the visuals as the quality mode is, but it's a acceptable medium between the two. Now there is a mode I say, play this mode when you play the game. Play performance sharp. There's performance sharp, there's performance smooth, and then there is quality mode. Play performance sharp. It's better, and it's definitely not as blurry as smooth is. Anyway, it's a good game. It's a good game. It's a high quality game. It's definitely gonna be in the Game of the Year conversation. I just think that a lot of people, when they beat that game, they're going to be looking for videos explaining. As a matter of fact, I might make a video to try to get some of this YouTube traffic, because there's gonna be people going to be like, "What is
you should
what?
Let's go.
Who is this? Why? What is happening?" And it's going to be a lot of that going on, and so. Yeah, I'm gonna have to capitalize on some of that with my theories as well. That probably end up being wrong, but outside of that, that's all I've been playing. Dragon's Dogma 2 comes out tonight. I'm glad I beat the game, Rebirth, so I can dedicate my time to Dragon's Dogma 2 now and not feel guilty about trying to juggle both of them. But
I don't understand how you could do that.
Yeah, with those kind of games.
How you could jump from one game like that to another. I no.
I
have to have something in the middle.
Yo, I saw something, a clip on, I don't know how people have all these gameplay clips from Dragon's Dogma 2. I don't know if they're coming from reviewers or whether people got like, they changed their time zone and got it early. I saw a clip earlier today. A dude who's a Ryzen, that's your main player, fell off like a tower or whatever, and their pawn caught them. And I'm just like, what? That made me go, yeah, I can't wait to play this. I've already went into the character creator and I already like made 2 characters and 2 pawns. And I was already getting it, but like that kind of made me a little bit more hyped for it. Then I started to see other people discussing the game and saying how like how you play can really affect how your pawn like works with you. Like and I'm like, I don't know if that's cap or not, but I'm like, that really got me intrigued. So normally, typically, after playing a really long RPG, I usually switch it up and I'll play something like an action adventure game. I'll play something different, maybe just like a different kind of game to kind of like mix it up and not just get overloaded with the same kind of genre. But nah, I'm good. I'm gonna jump at Dragon's Dogma 2. Hopefully I like it, because I didn't play. I played the first one, but it was like I played it years and years and years later, and it just didn't work for me at that time. So, but I'm gonna give this one a fresh shot. Anything you got? Oh, real quick, before we get into the topics, the one thing that I watched that I was really hyped for, X-Men 97 is fire.
Yeah, my wife just got mad at me because
so
I didn't mention it to her. She's like, how you tell me about X-Men 97? I was like, oh, I thought if I didn't bring it up to you, you should have told me about it. I was like, yeah, you're right.
Let me say this. One, I'm a fan of Scott Summers, okay? I'm a fan of Cyclops. Already some people are like, oh my God. Like, look. I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Cyclops from the comics, not the Cyclops that you normies know from the cartoon. I'm talking about the real Cyclops, okay? Not the cut version that was getting beat up by Wolverine. That ain't never happened in the daggone comics. Us comic fans know what I'm talking about. Now, this Cyclops, I can see where they're going with it. But this dude he's very much like the Cyclops in the comics. I enjoyed that. I enjoy where they're going so far. It's they only got the first 2 episodes out, but those first 2 episodes were great. The only negative I think is I really kind of wish they didn't stick to it's better animation than the 90s, but it's just like, why even stick to the same style? I don't even like I get it, you're basically picking up where the show left off back then, narrative wise, exactly, like maybe like a year later after that show ended. But I mean, it's 2024, bro. We got all kinds of great animation now. Can we just use the technology that's at hand, please? I don't know. But you ready, guys? You guys ready to get into this?
I mean, yeah. Are you?
I'm ready. Logic, you ready?
Yeah, I'm good.
Logic fell asleep.
No, I was looking up Cyclops lore because I'm with Slow-Mo. Cyclops is one of my favorite X-Men. I've never been since the movie started. I've never been down with this whole bid to make Wolverine the big deal.
Yes, I mean, like, he's never been well, prior to him becoming so popular in the cartoons and the movies, Wolverine was not like the leader of the X-Men. He wasn't like looked at as like, well, what Logan, what do you think? Nobody gives a crap about what Logan thinks. Logan just wants to cut everybody up. He just wants to fight.
That's why he's the most popular one.
But then they take him. Yes, Storm was the leader that took over when the original X-Men, left and stopped being X-Men. Like, Storm is instead in the movie, she gets dumb one-liners, or she's basically in the background, and it's just like there are more storylines to the X-Men than just the dynamic between Magneto and Xavier, and and Wolverine, and being in front and center on everything. It's just, can we get some daggone Mr. Sinister in here? Can we get a movie that actually tackles like Cameron Hodge and Genosha or something? Like, there's so much more, and it's just this show is kind of delving into those things that I like. So, since we're talking about Marvel, we got a nice little reveal at the Game Developer Conference. And Epic does this every year. They wow us with all their technology and where Unreal Engine is going and what Unreal Engine is doing. And we would love to see it be delivered in the games the way it seems to be delivered at these Game Developer Conferences. But all that said, EA, and I can't remember the name of the studio that's doing it, but the studio is ran by Amy Hennig, who a lot of people know from Uncharted, are making a game called Marvel 1943, and it's running on Unreal Engine 5.4, which Amy Hennig repeatedly stated was the only way they could get visuals to look like this, and says that, hey, this game basically can't be made or like look like this on any other game engine, which when you see it, you're just like, well, damn, that looks amazing. And then they kind of did like a little tech demo of showing how they were able to very easily take, say, snow away and take snow off of objects that just littered in the environment. Look freaking amazing. My question is, and I'm going to pose this question to Logic first. When this game finally comes out, will it actually look like that, though?
Tell the truth, shame
Logic?
the devil. Tell the truth, shame the devil.
No, I mean, I
Tell the truth, shame the devil.
I mean, it's genuinely hard for me to answer that question, and and I guess. I mean, I guess my default answer would be no, because what gamers will always claim is that a game always looks better when presented as a trailer and when it's first revealed than the actual game shows up as. Like, I think that's always kind of the jaded view. Me personally, I can't answer that question just in terms of like, Forte and I were talking about this last night on Prep. I don't pay attention to these things.
Yeah.
like no. It kind of correct. Like, okay, so knowing that your jaded bias is probably going to lead you to say that the game doesn't look as good as it did, then why do you pay attention to the reveal?
True.
Like, I know it's good for the hype cycle. I know everybody likes to talk about it. I can't be bothered to put like gray matter cycles on games that I'm not going to play for 2 years. Like, I mean, I don't even know, when does this game even come out? I haven't paid attention.
I don't think there is a release date for it. There may be a release window, probably next year or the year after. But yeah, look, yeah. The reason why I asked the question is because I see so many people being hyped, and I'm just sitting here thinking to myself, it's like, y'all know it ain't gonna look like that, right? I mean, it's just like, I guess this is. By let's say the latest is 2026. It comes out 2026. We're looking at a PlayStation 5 Pro. We're looking at potentially a new Xbox hardware. We don't know what that was going to really. We don't know what it's going to look like or entail, whether it be more powerful or not. And then you're looking at like GPUs that are okay. 2026, we're halfway through NVIDIA's RTX 50 generation, and probably ramping up for AMD's 8000 or whatever GPU. Actually, no, they're doing those this year. So we likely wouldn't get the next AMD GPUs yet. They normally go like 1.5 to 2 years before they drop a new generation. So I can't, excuse me, I can't imagine like the level of detail and that you're seeing being possible, definitely not on consoles, but probably barely on like PC hardware. The tip top and the tippitiest, the toppiest GPUs. We're talking like the 5090 Ti and the 8900 XTX, you know, like, because AMD like numbering is stupid. Like, those would be able to run it, and then it's like there's still compromises. So it's just like I just find it like, I found that part of it fascinating, that so many people were so excited, and it reminded me about how Epic does this every year at GDC. And it's really, it's not for us, it's for other developers.
Yeah.
Right. Yes, because they want other people to say, hey, we could do that too. Yeah. Let's go do all that. And then they make Immortals of Avian.
But here's my other thing of it, and maybe the first thing that I said would sound like really overly caustic, which it probably is and probably warranted. But my point is like, what does it matter? And I think that's more of the, like, my perspective than, you know, gamers kind of overhyping stuff. When the game, like the things you just rattled off, to me is what will matter. When the game comes out, yes, there's going to be a handful of people who go, oh, like, this game doesn't look as good as it did, you know, in 2024 when they revealed it at GDC. But like, to me, I'm like, look, I'm going to take the game when it comes out. Let's assume it's 2025. I'm going to lay it down next to the other games that are out at the time, right? And that's going to be the comparison. Like, the game looking worse. I think my point is the game looking worse than it does in 2024 when it releases in 2025, 2026, whatever, isn't the thing that determines whether or not the game gets a bad review score or a good review score, or whether or not it's a good game. You know, it's all a matter of like that snapshot in time, what the landscape of the industry is. And that's why I just kind of often feel like these, you know, us drawing back to the data points of these things when they come out as trailers, just to me isn't really relevant, because the vast majority of the market isn't going to even remember.
Right. Yeah. And that's what it kind of draws back to. What is this for anyway? Because like, as we said a little while ago, this is not for like this whole press con, even though they publicize it and put it on social media for everyone to see. But who's in the audience? It's not gamers in the audience. It's other developers and directors and publishers in the audience looking at this technology, looking at what Epic is showing. And it's because Epic and Unreal are trying to get more people to use Unreal Engine, which is part of the reason why I mentioned how Amy Hennig kept throwing in there only possible with Unreal Engine 5.4, letting you know, hey, we understand that 5.3, 2, and 1 did not deliver on the things that we said that they would deliver on. But hey, 5.4, that's the sweet spot, baby. That's the one you want right there. And I just find that funny. Go ahead, Forte.
No, I was gonna say it's a sweet spot until, you know, 5.5 and 5.6 comes out, and we really are telling you what's real now. But no, it looks good, but you know, like Logic said, the majority of people that, you know, what this would affect won't even care, because if you go back and like, remember when Watch Dogs got announced, when they showed Watch Dogs for the first time, and everybody was like, this looks incredible, and then literally the next time they showed it, like, this looks nothing like you showed us. Guess what? That game still sold 10 million copies because most people don't care. So this is it looks, oh my god, it looks so good. And if this was like Advent Children, I'd be like, yeah, we're going to see that on the screen somewhere just like it was. But no, it's a video game, and yeah, we're not going to definitely see that. The one thing I will say is I'm very, very happy to see that Amy Hennig is working on something like this, because we were talking about her the other day. We were talking about like how everything kind of, you know, I think it was on Brap yesterday. We were talking about how all that stuff kind of happened with there. We definitely want to see exactly how the things that she's working on and how she falls on her feet, and we got our answer to that with this showcase and stuff. But it looked great, but anybody that thinks that this is going to look like this is mistaken. But I will say this, the fact that they do put it out for internet consumption is still asking for a considerable critique of what people are seeing. People are going to say, like, oh, this looks incredible, and it's going to give false hope to some people to think that this is what games are going to look like. Because, and I do agree, it is the people that's in the stand, they are developers and stuff like that, and you're right, and it is the showcase for the people that don't get a chance to come to GDC to see it, and they want to put it out for other people to see the capabilities of what 5.4 can actually do when it comes to Unreal. But you know, when gamers get a chance to see stuff like this and they see it, they're gonna run with it. And it's not like Epic doesn't know that's gonna happen.
Well, you know, also there are developers that aren't there, you know, that aren't at GDC that are going to see it, and or gamers who have the passion to potentially want to get into that avenue that might see this and say, oh, you know, like I hear that Epic doesn't charge me on the license, considering that I'm, you know, just getting into this, and what the chances of me generating the kind of revenue that would warrant them kicking in a percentage is unlikely, that I could go ahead.
Is it still after 1 million sales, basically?
I think so. Either 1 million sales or generating a million in revenue. It's one or the other.
Million something, yeah.
But and then they just recently stated that if you make your game exclusive to the Epic Game Store, you get 100% of the revenue for the first 6 months, which is definitely because gamers continue to say, "Oh, that game launched on Epic Game Store. Oh, too bad that game got delayed 6 months." That's in their mindset. That's what they're thinking. Because I'm just gonna wait for it to show up on Steam, which is what a lot of gamers do, unfortunately. But no, I mean, I wish I would have saw some actual gameplay instead of just the technology on display, and so I could have an idea of what the game is going to play and feel like, because that's the most important thing. The technology is great and all, and that's fascinating. And look, the metahuman motion capture, facial expressions, that's I don't see anyone really topping that in the industry. It's definitely top tier. All that stuff is fascinating, but where's the like I need to see some gameplay. And I understand, like, that's probably not, this isn't the forum for that, and they're not going to discuss that and show that stuff there. But now that you've shown the game, I would probably want to see, the next time you show the game, I better start seeing some gameplay.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you in that, like, the gameplay and the mechanics are the most important thing. I feel like the most important takeaway from the trailer, from this initial reveal, and it's interesting that you started off right with the talk about X-Men for comic book fans. And I mean, for people who are not comic book fans, I guess I would think that maybe they would ask, right, you know, who are their friends who are comic book fans, what is their take on this? Because when this thing was announced, the thing I was most concerned about is, like, you guys have to nail the story. Like, this is a very obtuse setup from what Marvel and the comic books have been doing for the last 10, 15 years, right? This is not the current Marvel timeline that everybody's kind of familiar with in the modern world. This takes things back to World War II, which is people just don't get, right? Like, I mean, there's been references to it, and you've seen Steve Rogers, and, you know, they did some of the time travel stuff, but, like, people don't really understand, like, you know, and I guess I'm expressing this as an old, right? Like, I actually read, like, paper comic books of, like the Marvel, right, you know, stories and timelines from World War II. And so, but, like, today's modern, you know, moviegoers, video game, like, they're completely unfamiliar with that. You know, back when Namor was a good guy. Right? You know? So
the submariner.
Yeah. So my big concern about this is kind of like they have to figure out a way to introduce people to that lore, and again stick the landing of the story, right? Because the original, man, were they the Invaders? That was like Namor, Captain America, the original Human Torch.
Yeah, it was like a cyborg or something like that.
An android, yeah.
Yeah, android, yeah.
And I want to say, and I think Black Panther was part of that group too. But like this whole notion of like these heroes, who some of whom are in the modern timeline, but then some of whom aren't, and how they had their own like thing, like that is the part that I feel like needs to like get people, hook people right up front. And from from at least, and I know we're looking at it through a lot of the mocap and things like that, but it looks like, and I guess they have the guy who's playing T'Chaka is he T'Chaka or T'Chanda? I can't remember which one he is in this game.
He is T'Challa's grandfather, so he would be
T'Chanda.
Yeah, and he's being played by Kari Payton, who was in The Walking Dead.
Right, who's Ezekiel in The Walking Dead, and that casting, like, it's like what I've seen of it looks great. I mean, I kind of feel like, I guess I kind of feel between Steve Rogers and Black Panther, I feel like you need to get a guy who nails Black Panther, right?
Right.
I mean, even though, yes, I know people are unfamiliar with that character, but like the spirit and ethos of that character like has to feel grounded and real and come across as credible. And it looks like, and again, I mean, I guess this is why you put Amy Hennig in charge of the thing. Like, so I feel like, yes, the mechanics are important, but they got to get at least the premise of the story, and it can't be hokey.
Yeah, and it better be, look, you can play around with some of the minor aspects, but someone won that fight. And it better be the person that won in the comics, and like I'm not gonna say, I don't want to ruin it, because that would be ruining the story beat of the actual game. If you want to know, then you just go read the comic or Google it or whatever. But like, the end result better be what it was before. I'm just saying. But no, we can move on to a company that continues to disappoint everyone every other time they seem to open their mouth. Forte, right, Forte?
Yeah.
Right,
Sure.
right, Forte. Let's talk about Bungie for a moment. Bungie was in the news this week, and recently, every time we hear about Bungie, it's always bad news. And so, I wouldn't necessarily call this bad news. Forte, you would be glad to know that I actually was somewhat defending Bungie this week.
Oh,
Yeah.
well.
Yeah, I was defending them. Not necessarily defending them. I just think that people jumped the gun.
This story was a nothing burger to begin with anyways, but go ahead.
Okay, so Bungie has made some development changes to their extraction shooter Marathon. Joe Ziegler, former director on Valorant of Riot Games, has now taken over as director of Marathon after longtime Bungie designer Christopher Barrett was removed as director. I heard he was fired. I don't know what happened. I'm not trying to say dude got shoved a cardboard box, but he ain't directing Marathon no more. Now, according to IGN, Marathon now has a selectable cast of heroes. Think like Overwatch, like Valorant, like Apex Legends, rather than a character creator to allow players to create their own custom player, which is what was anticipated with Marathon and what you got from the Destiny game. So this was definitely the point of contention for people. And my only real pushback from what other people were saying, because like, look, if you're upset about that and you want to create your own character, hey, I'm not knocking that. I don't have a problem with it. It's just that people seem to think just that change in aspect changed like the entire genre of the game or something. I'm like, that's not how that really needs to work. The core gameplay loop of Marathon is still the same, and according to Insider Gaming, the core gameplay loop is you choose your mission, you buy or choose your loadout, perks, abilities, whatever gear, you drop into a server, you hunt for loot, complete your mission, do some exploration if you have the time, extract, spend your experience on the various things you want to spend it on, repeat. This is literally what extraction shooters are. This is what they all do. That's Escape from Tarkov, that's Scavengers, which is dead now. That's all of them. That's what they do. And that's when I played the Division Heartland, which is a distraction shooter, that's the purpose of that as well. If you die in there with the stuff that you brought in, you lose the stuff that you brought in. That's the risk of it. It's kind of like something that was introduced with the Division Dark Zone, and that's really a main premise of distraction shooters. But still, none of that has changed. The only thing that's changed is that you don't get to make the person that you go in to these missions with. You gotta select from a predetermined person, which I can understand are disappointments with that, because everybody wants to make their own unique person look the way they want them to look and look different than everyone else's. But there's a reason for all this. And that reason isn't just because Joe Ziegler came from Valorant, where they have their own selectable cast of heroes. It's for post-launch monetization. Because when you have a selectable group of characters, you can then charge people for cosmetics for those characters, emotes for those characters, all kinds of different color skin outfits, whatever. This is what it's about. Is after launch, when they put out that battle pass, oh, you want that skin for that one character that you always use? Well, that's the level 56 out of 100. You better get grinding. Or you spend this money on it, however you like. So that's really what this is about. Now, Forte, you know, you are big into, or you were big into Destiny. But how do you feel about all this stuff with Bungie? You say it's a big nothing burger. Why is it a big nothing burger?
Because this change happened over almost a year ago. This is something that a lot of people just didn't know, but this was implemented, I want to say, back over the summer of last year. There was already rumblings of somebody else already taking over development of Marathon. It just wasn't formally announced. But this is something.
Apparently, this really occurred, or at least with the change and director occurred like 9 months ago. So all this actually happened before all the layoffs and stuff.
Before all the layoffs and stuff happened. So me and Logic talked about this yesterday. We were talking about it on BRAP, and you know, I'm gonna try.
It's like the third time y'all said y'all talked about this on BRAP. This ain't BRAP. Talk about it now.
We're about to talk about it now. I was gonna say.
Then talk about it now, daggone it.
Okay, well, listen, calm down. You should have been there with us. But for me, I wasn't okay. I'm interested in it just because it's a Bungie game. But I'm not really into that type of game, so it really was like something that I'm not really looking for.
You're not into extraction shooters. You don't like that genre.
Yeah, okay. I will try it just because it's a Bungie game, because I like Bungie games.
Tell him what the specific phrase was from BRAP, Forte.
What's the phrase?
Nobody cares about an extraction shooter.
Oh yeah, nobody cares about extraction shooters. You're right. That was it. I definitely don't care about it.
I would differ. No. Well, hold on. Logic. Was it Forte that said no one cares about extraction shooters?
No, it actually wasn't.
Okay, because you have a habit of saying nobody cares about stuff that just you don't care about.
I just followed suit when they said it, and I was like, man, that makes sense, because I really don't care about this. But like I said, I'm interested just because of the developer that makes it. You know, the developer that makes it is going to always kind of make you kind of interested. Like, you're going to give it a try just to see.
And that's the only reason to care about Marathon.
Exactly. It's only because of Bungie making it. That's the only reason to care about it, because I know the gunplay is more likely going to be tight. I know it's gonna have that, you know, whatever verdict they use, the 30 seconds of fun. I think that's still with Halo. I don't think that's really what Destiny anymore. But no. I expect the overall polish to be there. It just comes down to I'm just not into that type of game and stuff. So, but yeah, a lot of these moves already happen. I'm still more interested in what Sony's going to do to Bungie when this is all said and done, and if Bungie's going to still be Bungie by the time this game actually comes out. I do know that they wanted this. It wasn't meant to be a class-based game at first. Maybe that's part of the reason why they delayed it out of 2024 to 2025.
So they're adding classes, and they're adding
they're adding more
specializations per selectable hero.
Yeah, because the game was slated. I mean, internally it was slated for this year. So
which is why we even have this trailer, because it was at the PlayStation Showcase of last year.
So,
which meant that it was supposed to be out around this time period. I would say this before Logic goes. I'll say this. Look. People care about extraction shooters. They just on PC. And extraction shooters, nobody on console cares about extraction shooters, because extraction shooters really haven't touched consoles yet. Like, the ones that are coming to consoles haven't really arrived yet. I can't think of a single extraction shooter that's out on console right now. and all of them are on PC and they live on PC. And some of them have died. Like I mentioned, Scavengers. I played that with some friends. I didn't really care for it. That's why let me know that I wasn't really into extraction shooters like that. But Scavengers died in a year. Escape from Tarkov, though, Escape from Tarkov isn't even on Steam. This is how you know a game got some juice. It's not right, even on Steam, and it's doing good. Go ahead.
2.45 million people care about extraction shooters.
Yeah, is that the entire number of people that play Escape from Tarkov?
Exactly. Exactly.
And see, look, that is, and see, this is what, look, I had a good discussion with somebody. I think it was someone who, because I did a lunchtime from Slow Mo like last week, and someone came in and they disagreed with some of the things I was saying about live service games. And I was talking about how certain live service games, depending on the genre in the live service game, it has a finite number of people who are interested. So what you're really doing, you got to catch the wave. If you don't catch the wave, you miss it, you're done. Don't launch that game, because you're not going to likely not steal players from the game that everyone is playing. And this is what I was talking about, because like Escape from Tarkov got all the extraction shooter people, but you can see the shift from publishers to developers. At one point, they all wanted to make looter shooters, but Destiny had that on lock. And so it was hard to steal Destiny players away from something that they were so invested in, and they couldn't. And then there were the hero shooters, and Overwatch had that on lock. And we had the bleeding edges, we had the lawbreakers, and they fail. They couldn't get those Overwatch players to stop playing Overwatch. And only one that really did that, I'm not saying it's impossible, but Valorant definitely did that, considering how big Valorant is. But now it's shifted to battle royales. Everyone had to make a battle royale. The ones that are popular and the ones that are successful today have been successful for over 5 years. There has been no other battle royales in the past 3 years that have launched and have made it. They just aren't. And so at this point, if you launch a battle royale in 2024, you just like to throw money away. At that point, just give it to me.
True.
I mean, if you just gonna throw money away, I mean, I can do something with it. I appreciate it. But now it's the extraction shooter. You got Arc Raiders, where was it Nexon that's making Arc Raiders? I can't think. But who the publisher of Arc Raiders took it from a PvE 4-player co-op game, which when you look at Helldivers 2, they're probably kicking themselves for doing that. Delayed the game because they were going to change the complete genre of the game to an extraction shooter. You got Division Heartland, you got Marathon, you got all these extraction shooters, and we have yet to see a single extraction shooter show up on console and actually do something. I kind of see your point there, Logic, where it's different. You know, it's going to be something where it's going to be really difficult to try to pull those players away. And we saw from what, you know, internally what happened when Bungie brought in all of these Escape from Tarkov content creators, showed them the game. Either they showed them or they let them play the game, and then asked them. They just showed them the game and said, would you play this? If this game launched today, would you stop playing Escape from Tarkov to play this? And not a single one of them raised their hand. Mm-hmm. It's pretty telling.
Yeah, so I think, I mean, to me, what you're describing is, you know, what I've talked about lots of times, what we've seen from the industry is that there's a certain business model basis, demand signal basis for these games as a service, and that is the player base. And gamers who are, you know, just coming into gaming or are gamers but are just shifting over to that genre, what they're always going to be attracted by is the game with the largest player base. So those games are only going to atomize so much, right? Before they kind of break that curve of onboarding new players. So when a new player comes in and they want to play a battle royale, they're going to want to play Fortnite. They're going to want to play, I guess I would include Apex Legends in that, right? There's a gravimetric force essentially to these things that is driven by the size of their player base. And once they fall down that, right, or once there's a certain number on the market, they're always going to attract, right, the new players. And yes, you're going to have things like the finals. You're going to have things like Pal World. You're going to have things like, I'll just throw Helldivers 2 in there just as a basic game as a service, right? But number one, I don't, and I've said this before, I don't know that we, like, when those things happen, we don't know whether or not those things are a blip or whether or not they have staying power. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of people that run off, right, and pom, oh, look at the finals, right? It's taking a bunch of market share from, game 1, game 2, and game 3. And I'm like, okay, but let's revisit this 6 months down the road. Because the
not even that. The finals has already lost 80, somewhere in the mid 80% of their player base in just the past month and a half.
Right. So
it's difficult to keep those people.
Yeah. So any of these things can become the flavor of the month, right? But you need to understand, just like you said, like nobody's cracked the egg for 5 years, right? But if somebody has 4 years, right, of Fortnite time under their belt, right, or 3 years in Call of Duty maybe not so much because it's not as persistent, but anybody who has 2 years, 3 years, 4 years of a track record, right, of inventory, of unlocks in those other games, there is always the potential, right, for them to flip back once they've had a little bit of a taste of the flavor of the month. So yeah, it's a hard industry to crack, and you're right. Like once you catch it, you kind of lock down market share to a certain extent, and then you have some churn that's the cruft on top, but then that's it. In reality, my thing about extraction shooters on consoles, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I think my question is two things: and I haven't played them. What is the idle time versus engagement? Because that's a big, huge thing for me, and it's one of the reasons I don't play battle royales. It's like I don't have time for an OODA loop of 12 minutes of looting, 3 minutes of engagement, right? And within that 3 minutes, right, if I don't survive that first encounter, then I'm just done, right? Now I've spent 12 minutes wasting my time looting, right, just to have to start over, right, on the next level.
But I would say this: when it comes to good battle royale games, the looting aspect of it, the idle time that you described, isn't as idle as it appears. It may appear to be idle. Like I was showing some Fortnite gameplay earlier, but like what you didn't hear, because it's just the visual and not the audio, was me, Taz, and shout out to GG, who was playing with us as well. The three of us were the whole time, when we're not engaging and fighting and killing the other people, is that we're talking about where to go next, because it's about strategy and being in the best position as the circle is getting smaller and smaller of where to be. Hey, do we want to hit the forecast tower? Because the forecast tower will tell us what the next circle is going to end at. That allows us to position ourselves a little bit better. It's still active time, because you are trying to put yourself in the best position against other competitive players who could be just as good as you, as better. But if you get the drop on them, you're able to third party them as they're fighting other people, if you're able to snipe down on them from a higher position because you got there, you knew where the circle was, and you knew that this was the position to be at to end the match, you can have that advantage and win. Good good battle royales do that. The bad ones, you can just tell by the map design, the level design, that's just it ain't it. You're just doing nothing. Yeah. I
mean, I get that, and I appreciate that perspective. For me, like as an individual gamer, that still feels like idle time. Like I still count that as idle time. Mm-hmm. So part of my question is what does that look like on an extraction shooter? Like, is it a 50-50 split? Is it a 70-30 split? I think that's for console players, I think that's going to drive some of the uptake. But the big thing, and this is another question I have for you, is my impression from extraction shooters is the only way to onboard casuals is to get those casuals onboarded with experienced players. It is just not a casual friendly type of game. And I think that's going to lead to the exact thing that you're talking about, which means that it's its maximum number of people that it can attract is going to be limited.
Yeah, maybe I don't have that much experience with extraction shooters to be able to answer that. Like I play Scavengers, and Scavengers was like, the gameplay loop was like this: you drop in with a team of 3, and you would collect resources. It's PvE VP, which is like very much like what was introduced with the Division Dark Zone, where you go in with a team and you are cooperating with your team. But if there are other teams that are doing the same thing, and you can definitely kill them and steal their resources. And there was a lot of that going on, and that aspect of Scavengers was very good. The parts of Scavengers I didn't care for was the collecting of resources and the extraction. I felt like the extraction, so there was the ship that would come down, and you would need to get all your resources. When you get the correct number of resources, you would then go to the ship, and then the ship would then take you off the planet, and then therefore your team won. What the strategy that people tend to figure out was, why bother doing all that gathering? I'm gonna go directly to the site where the ship is going to be, and I'm gonna wait for everyone else to show up, kill them, take their resources, and then I extract. And once people figured that strategy out, then it really kind of upended what the game was meant to do, the way it was designed and meant to be. There's far less people gathering resources, far less people fighting out all over the map, because the experienced ones, they just went straight to everyone's running straight to the extraction site, killing anyone else that shows up, and waiting for the farmers to show up so you can kill them too. And so it's just, when you get that kind of strategy down, the developers, I think the reason why Scavengers died was they didn't know how to pivot from there. What they should have did was like have the extraction site not be known ahead of time. Like the ship is coming down, and it's coming down in a random position that no one knows, and that kind of forces the people who were just ambushing everyone else at the extraction site to actually do the gameplay loop. But at that point, I think that they lost too many players that really make sense. But it's like it's a different kind of extraction shooter that I think Escape from Tarkov is, and maybe someone who in the chat who's played Tarkov can tell me whether that's how Tarkov is or not. But I think that would be the minor differences in how these games are designed, even though they're the same genre, would determine whether they are actually successful or not. Yeah, and whether you can get veteran players in to kind of Sherpa the new players and say, hey, this is where you go, this is how you do it, and you know, these are the best weapons, don't even bother with that kind of stuff, we're gonna go over here, we're gonna do this. Like I think some games can kind of get around that, because there's always going to be players who are experienced in other kind of games that come to this, and they may come with different strategies that might actually work. I don't know, man. I guess I could have to see how it plays out.
Yeah, I think the struggle is going to be, you know, like I mean, and again, maybe somebody in the chat, you know, will tell me different, but again, I think my impression, and from what I've seen of the design of these games, there is no such thing as SBMM in an extraction shooter, which just means when you're a rook, you're going to come in and you're going to hope. I mean, just like you said, you're going to need to Sherpa along with a senior player who knows what's what, because otherwise you're just going to go into a game and get seal clubbed, you know. And then that's your, you know, that's the thing that takes you off of a game. Now, some people will stick with it, but I just think, like, from a market. Like I just don't know that type of difficulty is a super simple label to apply to it, but I'll just use it for now. That type of difficulty is gonna make it is gonna create some friction in onboarding and people sticking with the game. Now, is Marathon free to play? Do we know that yet?
We don't know that yet.
Okay, that
I think it needs to be
difference.
I think it needs to be free to play.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Because in order to get people in, like the most successful ones, honestly, are free to play. Like you, and I think they probably are leaning in that direction, even though you can't be fully for certain when it comes to Bungie, because Bungie leaned really heavily into cosmetics on Destiny as the game became later in its life cycle. Even though the expansions are like super expensive. Like I'm sorry, like freaking $100 expansions. Are you out of your mind? And you're charging out the butt for cosmetics. Are you crazy? But then now we see financially how they was looking, and you understand, oh, okay, you guys were dying, that's why you were doing all that stuff.
Expansions are only $40, sir, just to let you know that.
Last time I saw expansions, weren't people buying $100 versions?
Yeah, because it comes with the whole year worth of content, which is 4 DLC drops over the course of a year. So,
but part of the problem with Destiny is, I'm sure there was a way to break the code, but anytime I was thinking about going back, it was always like some Byzantine, like Rorschach test of figuring out what the hell you needed you needed to buy.
That was the ridiculous part of Destiny.
Yeah,
like
you stop playing Destiny for like a month and you come back and you're lost. Like that should not it should not be that convoluted.
I logged in the other day and I was like, because I was going in to get my weekly offerings of Bright Dust, and I was like, oh, let me see if I want to try something, like run a strike or something. And I was looking at the screen and I was like, I'm lost. I'm lost. I called Cog on the phone, was like, Cog, what do I do? He's like, you do this, you do that. He said, but just to let you know, I'm still kind of lost too. I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm like, oh my God. I said, we all lost, bro. We took like 6 months off, 6 to 9 months off this game, being people that played it for 8.5, 9 years, and we're lost.
I think that's probably Destiny's biggest Achilles heel, because I feel like a lot of the live service ongoing games have lulls where people leave and then they come back. But coming back should be a very easy process for an experienced person who played the game. And with Destiny, it's not easy. You come back and you're no different than the person who's never picked up Destiny before. You're just like the last time I tried to understand what was going on with Destiny, I literally had no clue what to do or where to go. Like, how do I start this expansion? Like what? Like I started to load the game up after 2 minutes of pop-up ads or pop-up stuff. Getting that out the way, you throw me directly into a mission. I have no idea what's going on. You talk about stuff I have no clue about, with characters I've never seen before, but they apparently know me. And then the mission's over and it's just like, all right, so what do I do? And you don't know where to go. Their onboarding and reboarding is really like their biggest Achilles heel with that game.
Yeah.
I don't think that would be a problem with Marathon, because it's not as it's not like this kind of game where
it's not a narrative game.
Yeah. But anyhow, look, I don't think what was revealed this week was that big a deal. Obviously, all three of us kind of really don't feel that way, but it seems like we all kind of feel like this game this game might not be all that successful. I mean, am I wrong? I kind of want to move on to the next topic, but I think
the game's going to be super successful for them. I just don't know what their level of success is. I think a lot of people want to play it, but what is their level of success? Because
level of success is the people who jumped on to play it are still there a year later.
Well, their level of success, you got to think their level of success is Halo and Destiny. I mean, you're talking about Destiny day one had 21 million people playing the game.
I don't think they're getting that. They're not getting that.
That's what I'm saying. What's their level? I mean, think about Halo. Halo, pretty much through the stewardship of Bungie, was 10 to 15 million people. So what is their expectations for this? That's what I'm really interested in. Like, what's the expectations of what this game is, where it is more of a niche inside of a niche of shooters, completely separate of what they normally make, Not saying they can't do it and find an audience there, but that audience is like just like Logic said, it's like super small. So what is their level of success inside of that market?
I don't know.
It's Totoki level.
If it's the Toki level, it's a wrap. It's a wrap. It ain't happening, Captain. Well, look. I don't think the final shape is good. I think the final shape would do better than their previous expansion did. Mostly because the Destiny community is probably going to feel bad for them, and they're going to buy it, even though they may not believe in it. And it may be good, it may be excellent. I don't think it's going to hit the numbers that they need to keep their board intact. I think by the time Marathon comes out, Bungie is going to look like a very different company. And if the rumors are out there are true that a lot of the senior Bungie employees and leadership plan on jumping off the sinking ship in next year anyway, regardless of how things turn out, you're looking at basically Bungie becoming BioWare, where they're the same developer in name only.
Well, that's why they said that a lot of them are trying to get hunker down and get Marathon out before that happens, because
because they know once they get that last check off the sale that they're ghost. I'm cashing out. I ain't got all my money out of this. I'm out of here. Like, yeah. Hey, look, more power to them. I wish them luck. I'm gonna play the game, but I don't know how it's gonna turn out. Speaking of developers that we don't know how it's gonna turn out with them, let's talk about BioWare for a second, because former PlayStation executive Connie Booth has joined EA. And she has joined EA in a role that is kind of a strange title here. It's like they made up a title, but General Manager of Action RPG is her title. I have never heard of anything like that before, but okay. One of her major tasks right out the gate is to revitalize BioWare, which should be launching Dragon Age Dreadwolf sometime next year. And for those who aren't aware about what's been going on with Dreadwolf, Dragon Age Dreadwolf was initially called Dragon Age 4. It was revealed at the Video Game Awards of 2018. Surprisingly, or maybe not surprisingly, considering how things are with EA and BioWare, EA did not want BioWare to reveal this game back then. Probably because it really put them in a very difficult position of having to keep BioWare on when they may have wanted to shut them down, and then having to cancel this game and get people, saying EA is always canceling studios and games. Who knows? Maybe that was leverage on their part. Regardless, we have yet to officially see any actual gameplay of Dreadwolf that wasn't leaked. And what we saw that was leaked did not make anybody that was a Dragon Age fan happy. This game was announced, as I said, 6 years ago, and still not one official second of gameplay footage. We've had 2 teaser trailers, and that's been about it. Very few of the original Dragon Age team not even going back to Dragon Age Origins from 2012, but just Dragon Age Inquisition. Actually, 2012 is 2, or I think it was 2011 when Origins came out. Regardless, Dragon Age Inquisition won Game of the Year the year it came out, and very few of that team is still left on the team that's making Inquisition. Their lead director for all the Dragon Age games no longer works at BioWare. Their lead writer for all their games no longer works at BioWare. And the guy that they had in place that was a longtime veteran that everyone knew of and expected for him to kind of carry things on, he left BioWare as well, Mark Dara. Which they then brought back as a consultant, very strangely, to quote unquote make sure the game feels like Dragon Age. It's just when you gotta do that, maybe the game don't look like. I mean, I've seen the gameplay; it don't even look anything like Dragon Age. Okay, so look,
right.
Logic. Have you played the Dragon Age games, Logic? I never think I'll ever ask you that.
I have. I mean, I think the one I spent the most time with was maybe 3. Was 3 the one with co-op in it?
No, that was Inquisition.
That wasn't.
That is 3.
That is 3.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that is 3.
Yeah.
Inquisition.
Yeah, so that's the one I spent the most time with. I mean, look, I mean, it'll as far as Connie having the mission to revitalize BioWare, like I don't.
It's a dead mission, bro.
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of have to do. You kind of have to do what you were saying about Bungie and the other one, right? It's really like you're rebuilding a whole new studio. And this, I mean, I wrote this up, I think maybe a few months ago, but this whole theory that, I mean, I think we've got 50 years of the gaming industry now, right? So we really have the minimum chunk of time to really start laying down, right, some theories about just kind of how the industry works and software development works and yada, yada, yada. And one of my beliefs is, look, the class of lead game architects and designers who were on the come up starting kind of in the early 2000s, like in Gen 6, like your Todd Howards, and really the heads at BioWare and Naughty Dog and, some of these other studios. I think the reality is that they're probably going to have about, a 15 to 20 year run. And then about that time, they're gonna kind of hit their apogee, and then everything is gonna be downhill. And that's just gonna be because like the DNA that kind of makes up their mentality about how to architect and design a game is just gonna start generationally kind of going out of vogue. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, and just like a great filmmaker, like I don't know, that like look, even Orson Welles, right, went over the top of the hill and then dropped off. And you may have some weird anomalies, like kind of a Kojima. And I know Slow-Mo doesn't like Kojima, but my point is you're going to have some
overrated, but continue. Yeah.
You're going to have some creators that still remain artistically viable, but who are probably still, right, when they hit that apogee, aren't going to be able to remain commercially viable. And so I really think if you accept that as a thesis, right, then you start looking at those studios and you start going, I think Bethesda being the cult of Todd Howard, that's done, right? It started going downhill, right? Fallout 76, Starfield. Like I don't think there's going to be a return of Bethesda. I mean, quite frankly, until you move Todd Howard aside. And when I look at that studio, the problem I have is I don't know who's in the succession plan for Todd Howard because I haven't seen them. Mm-hmm. Now, if I look at Sony Santa Monica, I see where Cory Barlog has stepped aside and started. You can visibly see him starting to hand the reins off to other people.
Yeah.
Right. And that to me is kind of representative of successful succession planning. Now, my prediction is that Naughty Dog is also going to have this problem because I don't see who's waiting in the wings and on the come up behind Neil Druckmann. So I don't right now. I don't believe there's a return of BioWare. I believe that studio needs to be just completely kind of rebuilt, from the ground up, maybe an extreme term, but.
Yeah, I can see that, and I agree with you on that. I guess where I slightly disagree is that I don't think it's the game design or their way of making games or what they were experts at that really is kind of out of vogue. Because we've seen stuff like people used to say that you couldn't make a game like Baldur's Gate 3 and it'd be successful, and that game turned out to be that was Game of the Year last year, right? I think.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like because I think you and I have talked and we've both agreed that the reality of Baldur's Gate 3 is that it's Divinity Original Sin 2 just with the D&D license. Right,
but then it's just like Larian has been. That's all Larian does, and they've been good at it. It's just now they're just kind of finally getting their recognition as a great developer, and it finally hit in 2024, even though they've been kind of doing this for multiple years already.
And a lot of people playing their game. Right, because I mean, previously, unfortunately, I mean they've been doing great things, but people haven't been playing them in the same type of numbers that Baldur's Gate 3 have.
Right.
So just
now, I think, just real quick, I think the difference between Larry and BioWare is that the people in BioWare right now don't have that talent, or they don't have the skill set to do what BioWare fans want from BioWare. It's like if we brought up Naughty Dog, if like people expect a certain kind of narrative-driven action adventure game from Naughty Dog, and all of the people they got in house now are people who are better making a racing game. It's like you ain't getting a good Uncharted out of these guys. Like that's they don't have the juice. It ain't happening, you know. So it's just, I feel like that's kind of where BioWare is, where they hired EA, were bringing in people trying to capitalize on and catch the wave, as Ubisoft seems to always want to do, and take BioWare's games in areas that frankly no one cared to see from that studio. And then when the mass exodus of veteran BioWare talent left the studio to make their own studios, like Archetype Entertainment that's making Exodus that looks amazing, what you have left at BioWare like are these younger guys that may want to make their own mark, and maybe they don't want to make games like that. They want to make different kind of games, and it's just it's like one of those situations where you have people who they want to show their creativity, and that's fine, and I fully get that, and they want to make their own mark. But the people that look at those games in that studio, that's not what we want from you. We don't want you to make your own studio and do that. We want Mass Effect. You know what I mean?
Well, so
true.
The initial part of the formula I wanted to throw in for you, just to reconsider or whatever, is so part of my thought in this is that part of the reason we're seeing this and the reason why it's generational and the reason why it like skips a hop right every 15 to 18 years is because right those people who were in those studios who were on the come up, right, who started that arc, they were influenced by the games or the art that they consumed right in the late 80s right through the 90s and late 90s. Mm-hmm. And then they grew up to design the types of games that they design. And that's and by the same token, right, the market is impacted, right? The market response to that was like, yeah, we like that. Yeah. But then the other problem you have is this swirl and this slurry, right? And I get it. You're saying that you want those games from BioWare, and I want those games from BioWare. But what I can't tell is if the gamers 20 years behind me want those games from BioWare. And if those gamers are sending a different demand signal, right, to the market, then my point is that the people who will succeed those, right, and I think I think we'll see these inflection points and these disruptions, right, and they'll last for a period of time, right? They're going to last until, let's just assume that it's true, right? Then the argument is that, okay, if that's the problem, then it doesn't get fixed until you move Todd Howard on, right, and you make him a Microsoft fellow, and you tell him, look, just be like the Bill Gates of video gaming, right, and just you know be a reviewer or somebody who gives a thumbs up, or but you don't actually have any power, until you get that next generation of designer and architect and hand over the reins, like that problem's not going to be fixed. And the success criteria, right, is how long do you spend in that bathtub of wallowing, right, with that, say aged, right, creative director still sitting in that seat when you should be making the shift. And the one example that I'll point to is Breath of the Wild. In my opinion, from my perspective, the reason I liked Breath of the Wild, not to say the reason Breath of the Wild is successful, but the reason Breath of the Wild appealed to me, having been a person who historically never liked a Zelda game, was because that younger generation of designer that they allowed to have a louder voice and a stronger hand in where Breath of the Wild went, what was a generation of designers who had adopted and taken on some elements of Western RPG design. Mm-hmm. And that cultural factor within the fabric of the Nintendo development house, right, is what kind of made a difference in how that game came out. And because there was that kind of grooming and starting of, changing of the guard, right, in that discussion at least happening, that's where you see, right, that inflection point taking place.
So you think BioWare is attempting to evolve beyond what they used to do in order to create something that's more appealing to the more like maybe what's a good
No,
18 to 34-year-old?
No, I think BioWare just sucks. I think. I mean, my point of BioWare is they peaked at Mass Effect 3, right? And it's been downhill, and they've thought that they were gonna like recapture the magic, right, and go back to it. And
they did with Inquisition. Inquisition messed them up. I think Inquisition was the worst thing that happened to them because it was successful.
Yeah.
And if you read Jason Schreier's book Blood, Sweat, and Pixels, he has a whole chapter on Dragon Age Inquisition, and in there is where you find out internally they really believe this. They believe they had this thing called BioWare magic, where no matter how bad development is, how terrible decisions are, and how they can't make they're making things they just rip out, and it's all chaos for years and years and years. Yep. They had this idea it will magically come together in the last year, and it's going to be an amazing 90 Metacritic banger Game of the Year nominee or winner. And that prevailing stupidity worked with Inquisition.
And you hear that other studios too. You hear that at Bethesda.
Yeah. But the problem, and I think it was some of the developers there talked about later on about BioWare Magic after the failure of Andromeda, Mass Effect Andromeda, after the failure of Anthem, and after all of their like issues with Star Wars: The Old Republic, and canceling of games and directors leaving and all this chaos with EA. Inquisition's success emboldened them even further towards that level of thinking, and that's why Andromeda turned out to be so bad, and how they just didn't realize that they were definitely walking off a cliff there, because they're just like, no, what? At some point it's going to work. It's all going to come together, and it just never did, because that's just chaos and knowing that things aren't working correctly and still just deciding to push forward. It's just, I mean, look, I'm not a game developer, but I talked to a few game developers, and sometimes you need to rescope. Just stop doing what you're doing. Or sometimes when it comes to Anthem, you need to make a decision and get someone who's a lead director that isn't going to be so soft that he can just be swayed by a simple conversation and change the complete design of the game again every 6 months. Like, they just, you're right. They kind of suck, and it sucks for me as a fan of BioWare that's where they're at. But it's what it is, man.
Yeah, I just think they need to reboot. Is my big thing. I think they hit, and like in that theory, I think like each studio will map to a certain timeline on that curve, like specific to that studio and its culture. And I think like the BioWare bathtub started happening a few years before the bathtub that we're seeing Bethesda in now. But I think the answer to the BioWare thing is they have hemorrhaged so much that I think that studio just needs a reboot.
Yeah, I and I'm fine with it now. I used to be upset about it, but I now that I've seen where Archetype Entertainment is working with, and that team is like 90% former BioWare like veterans, with Drew Karpyshyn, who wrote Knights of the Old Republic. He wrote a good portion of he was lead writer for Mass Effect 1 and 2, and a good portion of Mass Effect 3. Like, once they got him on board and all the guys that really like were the key components to a lot of their like BioWare's big heyday, after that I was just like, all right, man, this corpse that they call BioWare, that thing can go. I don't care. I'm good to go, because Archetype Entertainment is going to continue the legacy on. Forte, before we close this out, Forte, you've been pretty quiet on this one. What are your thoughts?
Man, it's BioWare ain't been BioWare for a generation now, bro. So
Can Amy Hennig turn it around?
What, make BioWare a new BioWare? I mean, it might as well not be BioWare.
Well, the word used by IGN is revitalizing BioWare.
No, it's dead.
Connie Booth, right?
Yeah,
you said Amy Hennig.
We said Amy Hennig.
Oh, Amy Hennig. Well, she can't help them either. But go ahead, Connie Booth.
Connie Booth. You know, David Jaffe will probably tell you she can, because that man was swearing by her when Sony walked her out the door. But I just don't think it's anything to save there. I just feel like at this point, all the people that truly mattered, like that came up with the stories, made the decisions, you know, the games that we're living off like Logic said, we're living off the games that we loved and appreciate. Like, you love Dragon Age. Like, I like Dragon Age. I wasn't in love with it, but I never really got into it like you did. But, you know, we share that same that commonality when it comes to Mass Effect. It's like, and my last time playing a Mass Effect game outside of the Legendary Edition, I was just disappointed in Andromeda. And every time they come out with an N7 day and they do some type of sneak peek behind the scenes look at what's going on with Mass Effect 4, I'm sitting there like, y'all can't even get Dreadwolf out the door. What? It's like, can she do it? I mean, you can do anything, honestly. I just don't feel like, I feel like the soul and the essence of what BioWare was isn't there. I do think that she can revitalize the name of BioWare and probably make it palatable to newer generations of gamers that play those games in the future and stuff. But I think the overall impression that BioWare placed on people like me, you, and other people in this community, I just think that that's been lost for. It's like we're hoping for that to come back, and we know it's not. Like every time I see a Dreadwolf update come out, Slow-Mo, you and Luca, I know you guys you're going to look at it because you're interested in it, but it's always met with like, what are they doing? What's going on here? If I see one more CGI trailer without gameplay, and then what do they do? Show off a trailer with a logo, and that's it. It's like, but it's like, how many times are we going to do this? So
yeah,
is it something?
I will say this though.
Yeah, go ahead.
I will say, I think the fact that they added Connie Booth here, we can at least say that, like, because I used to believe that Dragon Age Dreadwolf, well, more than that, I think it gives BioWare a little bit more rope. Because if Dreadwolf fails, and Dreadwolf has got it's only got like a year more of development at this point before it launches. If that game fails commercially and critically, I used to believe that EA would just shut BioWare down at that point. 3 strikes, you're out. That's your third failure. It's a wrap. It's time to move on. And they would just kind of shelve those IPs, maybe farm them out to someone else, a second party. Not they're the second party because they're a third party developer, but like a studio they don't own, and see if someone can do something with it, but not necessarily have BioWare do it anymore. But with Connie now being hired here, I feel like they at least want to make it to Mass Effect before they make that decision. Because Connie could definitely be like, hey, look, I didn't have enough time here to save this. It was a disaster from the start, and it's been in development for 6 years. And what did you expect me to do? What kind of miracle did you expect me to work on Dreadwolf just getting here? Now, Mass Effect, still in early development. That one is the more popular IP. That one I can save. And so maybe I can see EA saying, okay, we will give them to Mass Effect before we pull the plug on this. So I do kind of just, and maybe that's pie in the sky optimism, I
mean, there's nothing wrong with hoping.
Yeah.
Look, what we're gonna wind up seeing. Does anybody remember Westwood Studios?
I do.
Yes.
You remember EALA? EALA?
No.
Do you remember Danger Close Games? So
Yes.
This is the lineage of Westwood Studios. Westwood Studios effed up, put out a couple games that didn't meet sales targets. They got shut down, scattered to the four winds, reabsorbed. A lot of them went to EALA. Same thing. EALA put out a couple games that didn't meet the marks. They got shut down, shuttered. People got scattered to the four winds. A lot of them got relocated to Danger Close Games. Danger Close Games did Medal of Honor, which was a great game, I think. But they also quickly lost the shuffle right in the shoulder barging between Call of Duty and Battlefront. Right? Eventually they also got shut down. It's EA. I don't know. Like, we're a long ways off from when BioWare was the honeymoon sweetheart company founded by two doctors in Canada, right in 1995. I think a lot of that like spiritual goodwill is gone, and I think we're gonna start seeing. I mean, was it Motive? Who got shut down when the Star Wars project got canceled?
That was Motive.
That was Motive, yeah.
Okay, and did a bunch of them get relocated to BioWare?
No, they got relocated to, I think, the other game that also got shut down. They got relocated to the other game that just recently got shut down. The one that was the Mandalorian Star Wars game they were working on. So who knows where those people are now?
Yeah. So I think, I mean, this feels like Fortnite, right? It feels like the bubble collapsing, right? In the studio, because Motive was a Canadian studio, and I think the one they got relocated to was also a Canadian studio. So I believe that BioWare is in the crosshairs, and there's not going to be like, if Connie Booth can't turn this thing around, I don't think there's going to be many more mea culpas for BioWare, right? I think it's going to get shut down, scattered. They're going to be reformulated, reorganized, particularly in this industry's fiscal environment, with the way things are tight and the way people overhired and the way that everyone's kind of resetting and trying to figure out a new strategy. Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me. I just kind of like, I don't know. Like, I think the timing of the Connie Booth thing would lend towards them being given more time to try to make Mass Effect work. But then again, it is EA. They could be very impulsive and be like, nope, we gave it enough time. Let's move on to something else. Moving on to the next topic. I'm transition. Go ahead.
It's going to turn into Tomb Raider. Never make another one.
Yeah, I think their timeline does allow them to get another release out, maybe two, before that ripcord gets pulled.
Yeah. I wish Xbox would give themselves more time before putting their games on other platforms, because
man, Microsoft said I gave y'all enough time.
No, we gave them enough time, and they didn't do it. Anyway, look, hold on. Xbox console sales in Europe down nearly 50%. With Xbox putting their games on other rival consoles, do we see this trend, this terrible trend of console performance reversing anytime soon?
I'm gonna ask one question
Forte.
I'm gonna ask one question to the
panel. I just asked you a question.
I'm gonna ask you a question.
Were you gonna answer my question first?
You said it's a no, it's not. No, it's not going to change. It's not going to change. It's already set in motion. You know why it's set in motion? Because when you go out there and basically tell people they don't need a console, they can play everywhere else. This is what happens. I don't know why people thought that this wasn't going to happen. Like, people thought that
Amy Hood seemed to be pretty surprised that this is happening.
No, why? Why do you think? Let me ask you something, Slumber. Who cares about what Amy Hood thinks? I don't
know. She's just the CFO. I mean, I don't know.
Forte, are you asking why does Slow-Mo care about Amy Hood, or are you asking why does everybody? Because I've said it before. Amy Hood has said the check is due. Everybody cares about what Amy Hood thinks.
No.
Yeah.
The check is The check is due.
Okay, all
But
right.
I'm not saying that. No, when I'm saying Amy Hood, she has absolute right to know. This is also why I think why Microsoft's making the moves that they're making, because not Activision. They purchased all those studios. I think Bethesda was the anchor that they felt like could support Xbox long term. And it still didn't make a big enough move, mostly due to the fact that a lot of the games that they just got a kind of a raw deal, I feel, in their opinion, because a lot of the studios they purchased already were either in the middle of production of a game that they were making for somebody else, and they were releasing around that time, and then they got hit with
they ain't have to honor them deals. They Microsoft. They could have paid out those deals and made those games exclusive.
I bet you they probably, if they would have had to think that 2020, if they knew that 2020 was going to happen, slow-mo, and they had foresight into that, they probably would have did that. But nobody knew that 2 years later the world was going to fall apart and development was going to be predominantly done from home. That, that's why you're starting to see what's going on with PlayStation and stuff too, on top of the cuts and stuff, is the fact that they were further along in their development cycle for a lot of their games that were going to launch day one with their PS5 right at the beginning. So now you're seeing that even they're having a hard time getting games out because they already were working on those games early. So their development of the newer games are pushed back because, they already blew their wad at the beginning of the generation. And that's fine. We all knew that everybody was going to be kind of affected by this. The biggest thing that ultimately comes back to is they purchased those studios. Microsoft, and this is all just speculation, but Microsoft probably was looking at like, okay, this is how we're going to support Xbox going forward, which a lot of people were just happy to see when they started opening up the checkbook and starting to make Xbox feel like a first-class citizen. Just like I meant to say that yesterday when we were talking. We were talking about how Phil Spencer talked about we want Xbox gamers to be first-class citizens. They weren't even first-class citizens inside of Microsoft for a long time. They had to fight to get where they got to on that part. So once they got that backing, everything just kind of fell apart. The world fell apart around them and everything else due to a lot of stuff on their own. And then, once the Activision thing happened, that was kind of, was a no-brainer, but that's more money spent than Microsoft probably wanted to spend. But they was like, well, this is a good opportunity to get our, to really get the gaming sector jumping. So they made the push to go ahead and do it. But when it comes to everything else, when it comes to those consoles, that's a wrap, bro. It's they told people for way too long that it don't matter. Like, I don't know why anybody ever thought that wasn't going to be something that was going to come back and bite them in the ASS. And guess what? Even the CFO of the company knew when they were saying that was actually going to be probably part of the discussion. That might be why Microsoft is kind of more hands-on with the whole situation now, because the way that they were talking about it, the way they were marketing it, the fact that you had an Xbox Series X for $349 over the course of the holiday, and you barely sold it because nobody really knew about it. Or if they didn't know about it, they didn't care about it because you told people not to care about it for so long. It's a lost cause for this generation, at least, slow-mo. I don't know what they can do to fix it in the near term. It's all about long term for me with things that you already know what I feel like they should do long term. But when it comes to where they're at right now, it's only going to get worse because PlayStation has a new console coming out. We're going to talk about that in the next segment. And then Xbox is putting their games in other places. So the narrative is going to speak for itself at this point. But you thought I was going to say something different?
No, I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Honestly.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm just. Yeah, you're right. They told people you don't need an Xbox, which is
for way too long.
While you're selling an Xbox, it's mind-boggling. Are you surprised that people took you for your word and said, no, all right, I won't get an Xbox. You told me I don't need one.
Why is the CFO surprised? Think about it. Think about why is the CFO surprised when they told people that?
I mean, on your website on Xbox.com, you promote your games and you just say console. You don't actually. Go ahead.
The reasons the CFA might be surprised, and it's going to be interesting to see how this plays out, is because Amy Hood, she's in charge of money, right?
Mm-hmm.
She's relying on the Xbox GLT to tell her that these things that they're doing, that these things that they say they're going to do are going to be successful. And at the point where Amy Hood starts realizing, you guys told me that if we just spent more money, this thing would turn around. That is not going to be a pleasant day for people.
If we spend more money, it's going to turn around. So basically, what you're saying is like you can't just throw money at a problem.
Well, you can't tell the CFO that you're going to throw money at the problem and that's going to fix it,
and it don't fix it.
Yep.
Well, you know what's wild, right? About almost a year ago, I made a video.
Oh,
and that video,
Game Pass is the platform, not the Xbox.
Well, no. That was a few years ago, and people was like, "You don't know what you're talking about." Now that's what everyone says. But anyway, last year I made a video called the problem with Xbox, and I think a lot of people agreed with it, and even the people who disagreed with it agreed with it to a certain degree. But then when I started talking about changes in leadership is when people was like, okay, I feel you, but I think you need to chill on that. When I said maybe it's time Phil passed the torch to somebody else, people was like, not Phil. Not Phil Spencer. We can't replace. Look at everything that he's done for Xbox. If it wasn't, as they always say, if it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be an Xbox anymore. And it's just like, how many? It is true. If it wasn't for him, there wouldn't be an Xbox no more. But how long is he going to live off of past accomplishments, past accolades?
Just before you go on, Slow Mo, who is this driving on the stream?
Hold on.
In the swingman camera view, all outside the vehicle, not even challenging themselves by driving in the cockpit view.
Let's go.
Is this a casual?
Man, this man would have just got some generic.
First of all,
he ain't booted this game up in 6 months. And
I am not a racing game. I don't know anything about racers. I just play Forza Horizon sometimes for fun. Y'all can critique my inability to race all you. Hey, just look.
How old is this gameplay, Slow-Mo? 6 like 2 hours?
No, this is a while ago, actually. I mean, it's not when it first came out, but it's like every time I get a new GPU, which is like every 6 months, right? I'm joking, but it's not. But whatever. I reinstall Forza Horizon. It's like one of the games I kind of want to like do a personal benchmark on and play and see how it performs. I reinstall Forza Horizon 5 again just to see how it performs. And
he bumping into people, shouldering people out of the way.
He
ain't even clean racing.
Wait, hold on. I don't believe him.
Who does clean racing?
I do.
Man, whatever. Look, I use these other players as ways to they are additive to me braking. So when I don't brake in time, I bump into someone who then slows my momentum down, so then I can just pass them.
You know what?
I'm gonna let it go. Look, I'm okay. You didn't know I was coming on today. If this had been planned, like if you knew I was coming on, and then you consciously put this gameplay in the video, then I would be bothered.
Did you see him hit the wall trying to make a L turn and hit the wall trying to make an L turn? I was like, bro.
He in here wide turning like a submarine.
It's a SUV.
Yeah, but it's called slow.
I don't play.
Like a submarine.
I don't play racers. Okay. I
But
play arcade racers.
Come on, you just shouldered that AI into the wall, slow mo.
Good.
To make your turn.
That was a good play. That was a good idea. Hey, I won this race, okay?
Oh my god!
It doesn't matter how you get there, as long as you are number one at the end is all that matters, and that's how I race.
I get it.
I hope when y'all see my drivatar in Forza Horizon, it races just like that. I wanted to bump the hell out of y'all.
Have you noticed how those brake lights come on a hell of a lot? I'm like looking at this turn. I'm looking at this turn like, dude, you don't even have to hit your brakes on this turn. Just take your foot off the gas. You just coast around this turn, and as you come through the apex, hit the gas.
You know what? I don't see none of y'all racing gameplay. I don't want to hear it. Okay, we're gonna get back on topic instead of talking about my racing. Okay,
but listen, you're the one that said I don't play racing games like that, but then you decided to let us and our beautiful community of 1%ers see this terrible driving gameplay.
Hey, I won. Okay, it ain't that terrible. I won.
Against what level of drivatars?
I don't even know. It don't even matter. It don't matter. Okay, I won. That's all that matters. Okay.
I had to take my opportunity to give you a shot because look, you play the Souls games and stuff. Look, I know you're a better gamer than I am, but
don't say that. That's not true. We all have our strengths and weaknesses.
My preferred genre, and I can't have it.
You were within your rights to rip my gameplay to shreds. If my racing gameplay had a KD, it would be like Phil Spencer's KD in Halo Infinite, which is like a 0.34 or something like that. It'll be terrible. So I take all the criticism. Come on, I don't care because I don't clearly, as y'all can see, with me ramming into people like his bumper cars, I don't care about racers. So it's just, I'll take all the criticism. It's all good. Back to the topic. Instead of me failing at racing.
Man don't even follow the racing line, and it's on the screen.
I am following the racing line. I am following that racing line.
Now you're following it. I'm looking like when you come off the turn, like, why do you even got the racing line on it? You ain't gonna follow it.
Can we get back to the topic? You're just distracting from the topic at this point.
No, this is great because
you are distracting from the topic.
Listen. I was giving Logic all the smoke during the last show, saying he just parrots everything you say, and I feel better today because I feel like Logic is actually being normal today. Logic, I appreciate you, bro. Thank you.
You can't say me taking it to slow-mo is me being normal just because slow-mo and I have agreed in the past.
Agreed. Yeah. You sound real bitter right now, Forte. You just sound like
mad. He was mad because I said, let us buy our GPUs and stop pocket watching us.
Oh yeah, which is exactly true. Which is just don't be mad because he didn't agree with you. You know, that's all. This is look bitter Forte. I tell you, man. Anywho, let's take it back to the topic real quick. Circona, which is now what MPD is called, also came out today with their monthly numbers and everything. And in their monthly numbers, when they talked about console sales, Xbox finished,
also called Fanboy Lose Your Mind Day.
Pretty much, yeah, because that's what happens every time. Xbox finished third place in unit sales in the United States for the month of February, and in second place in dollar sales for February and year to date as well, which is likely due to the fact that the Xbox Series X and S, probably say the S as well, generally cost more dollar per unit than Nintendo does. So makes sense that they're in second place, even though they sell less. But even in their home country, they don't sell very good. They don't sell better than the lead platform in the console market, PlayStation. And so it's not just Europe. It's not just that, like, in non-English speaking territories, they don't market, and they don't market very well in territories that they're losing by significant numbers. I think, I don't know if this is confirmed, but some people are saying it's like 10-1 in Europe, which is mind-boggling. I don't know if that's true or not. If it is true, like, well, no wonder. When you don't market your products, when people can't find your products, then you're missing out on sales. And so, all that said, with hardware on the horizon, with Sarah Bond speaking about bringing up their working on new hardware, we don't know the exact date or year, but it's kind of seemed to be, it might be coming in 2026. And we don't know exactly what that hardware is supposed to be, although there are rumors it may be a hybrid handheld. But she's talking about the biggest jump in technology or something to that effect in that Xbox partner business update. Forte, what are your thoughts here on their chances of being successful with this next hardware? Granted, we don't know exactly what it is. But do you feel like it needs to be something super revolutionary or something completely different from what the market is currently doing in order to give them any kind of shot of reversing the current trajectory that they're at, considering more than likely they're going to be putting more of their first party games on PlayStation and Nintendo?
So, it depends. And the biggest thing is, when does it release? I think that's the bigger story in all this, just due to the fact that I feel like if they're making, unless they're already making it, they said, I know they said they greenlit it, but unless they've been working on this secretly for over a year, I don't see it coming before 2025. So 2026 at the earliest.
I think so too. Yeah.
That would be at the earliest. And at that point, I feel like I feel like it won't make a big enough difference, because I don't feel like the delta is going to be big enough to really make people pay attention, because the PS4 Pro is right around the corner, or PS5 Pro, I should say. That's right around the corner. So I don't think it's going to make a big enough difference if they're taking stuff that they've been working on for the last year and bringing it out in 2026. I feel like they need to do a total reset if they care about the console enough, or just care about the ecosystem to have like a console or even a handheld. Handheld, I think, would be completely different. I think they could survive in a handheld market, especially because a lot of people are buying into handheld. So I think they could do a handheld pretty much at any time and do very, very well in that sector when it comes to high-end gaming on the go. But if we're talking about a traditional console in your house, I think it's too late for them until probably the year 2027. And the biggest reason I feel that way is because I feel like they need to leverage their platform in the games that they have on it. They need to leverage the fact that they have Call of Duty, they have Fable, they have Fallout, they have Elder Scrolls, and all these other games. They need to, because when the PS5 Pro comes out, they're going to leverage the fact that all of these games and Microsoft games are going to look better on our system. They're going to say Grand Theft Auto is the best place to play, just because literally it most likely is going to be, because it's a newer system with higher end specs and stuff on it. And there's going to be promises that probably still won't be lived up to even on that system. But it's the fact that the narrative is going to be that that's a more powerful system, and Xbox isn't going to have anything to combat that. So I feel like they need to take a break. Unfortunately, you made your bed and you must lie in it now, because you decided to, unless you're going to, the only thing that can save them short term is if they detach themselves from the Xbox Series S. If they go out and tell developers like Rockstar, which they probably already did, and hopefully they did, if they went out and told developers that, hey, that thing we told you about supporting Xbox, you have to support both platforms in order to support us at all. If they can get away from that and get developers only coding for their Xbox Series X, I think that can help them, steal off a little bit of what's going to happen when this new system comes out. But as long as they have that S to deal with, I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle for them. But the biggest thing is we need to have a system that comes out before PlayStation decides to come out with their PlayStation 6. You need to have the narrative out there that your games like Call of Duty, your next game like Elder Scrolls, your Fallout 6, all of these games are Fallout 5, I should say. Mm-hmm. All of these games are going to be better on your system, even if they're going to other places, because guess what? PlayStation 5, PlayStation 6 not going to be out yet. So a lot of people, the casual fan base, they're going to, gravitate to that. I think Grand Theft Auto is going to be a great uplift for PlayStation this generation, because this is going to be the game that's going to officially move people off of old gen. As soon as this game comes out and is not available on PS4 and Xbox One, all of those people are going to flock over. And if it runs better and looks better on PlayStation, that's probably where a good majority of the sector is going to go. That's where they're already going now. So they need to leverage their content on their new system, and they need to do it as soon as possible. And they need to have conversations with developers as of right now to say that, hey, we're announcing in 2025 that the Xbox Series S is no longer part of the future of Xbox, and all games going forward can be developed with the Xbox Series X as the lower common denominator on top of whatever new platform we're making for the new future. If they do something like that and get the ball rolling early, I think they could kind of save themselves over 2025 and 2020 or 2026 and 2027 until that comes. But if they don't, then, honestly, this really depends, like I said, if they care about the platform or not. But when it comes to consoles, I should say.
I think when you mentioned pretty much abandoning the Xbox Series S in order to make sure that developers are fully utilizing what is available with the Xbox Series X, I don't see them doing that. But two things. I think almost by accident, the existence of the PS5 Pro will help the Xbox Series X in some ways, where developers will, because they're using some of these features with the PS5 Pro, will then also potentially use those features that were available in the tools that were available in the Xbox Series X that they chose not to use before, because why not? It wasn't necessary to learn how to get that stuff working.
Right.
That said, I do think that when we look at last year and we saw with Baldur's Gate 3, where Baldur's Gate 3 did not launch on Xbox at the same time it did on PlayStation. It took months later. And part of the reason why it launched on it finally got the launch on Xbox was because Xbox sent some of their own engineers over to Larian to help them get the game running feature complete for the most part on the Xbox Series S. I think that was a failure on Xbox in two ways. One, you have a developer that's out here publicly on social media talking badly about your hardware because they can't get the game running on it. That looks bad on your part. You should have reached out a long time ago. You should have had your producers, who every single publisher developer has a producer that they work with the platform. Your producer failed you at that point, because your producer should have never allowed you to get the social media before that happened. They should have been working with Larian to know what the issue was and to make sure that got alleviated, especially considering how big the game was becoming at that point. Now, you already know GTA 6 is going to be a big game. We already know that. You could say, well, they didn't know Baldur's Gate 3 was going to blow up the way it did. Fine. But GTA 6 is going to own 2025. It's going to own it. Like nothing else is winning game of the year. Mm-hmm. Nothing else will sell like GTA 6. it is going to be the game of the year, you should already be making sure that Rockstar is having 2 separate versions that are maximizing the potential of both your SKUs for your Xbox Series S and your Xbox Series X. It's that important. You should not be waiting until a Rockstar developer comes out and says, man, we can't get a stable frame rate on this Xbox Series X. Although I don't think that's going to happen. I think that game is very CPU intensive. That probably won't be the problem. I probably think if they have issues with CPUs with this, all 4 of the SKUs that will be out by then are going to have the same problem, I think. Regardless of that, you should already have your people out there. What do you need? Do you need us to explain anything with the hardware? Do you need to find ways around the weird way we did RAM for some odd reason on the Series S? Let us know, because that's being proactive, heading off the potential issue before it becomes a big problem that everyone is talking about. And we're out here on podcasts talking about how the game is going to run like crap on the Xbox Series S, because that's what a Rockstar dev told us, which will impact sales, because people will automatically go, well, shoot, I wasn't even thinking about getting it on that one, but I'm definitely not getting it on that one, on that version. This now, you're just pushing people over towards the PS5 at that point. Head that off, so that's not a problem ahead of time. But no, I mean, look, anything else we want to say about this before we transition? Do you have the DPS channel stuff ready?
Yep.
Okay. Are you already streaming so that I can do the redirect?
I'm hitting the button now because I didn't want to do it too early. Let's get it going.
Yeah. But no, for those who aren't aware, what we do is, like, for the last topic of the night, we transition over to our DPS channel. That's Damage Per Second podcast channel. We actually have a full channel for this stuff. If you haven't been there before, we do, streaming of games. We do live streams where we're just, playing games, having fun, as well as a segment of the podcast. So please hit the like button and subscribe over there if you haven't already. We really appreciate it. Forte is... As soon as Forte's got it.
It's connecting.
Cool. By the way, Logic, real quick, Logic. But have you played GTA at all? GTA Online or 5?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much fell off the series after Vice City. Just none of the other games really appealed to me, and that was probably heavily because Vice City was like that. That is literally my childhood, and like after that, I was like, okay, I don't think any of these other games really are gonna do what Vice City did for me. So I was kind of done. By that point, I had played, Grand Theft Auto 3, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, Liberty City Stories, Vice City Stories. So yeah, I'd pretty much had enough of it by then.
All right.
Yeah.
Link is in the chat for anybody that the redirect for some reason doesn't work for.
All right. Cool. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream. So, I'm causing an echo. Okay, Forte, you need to mute yourself until I switch over.
Oh yeah, my thing is. You're right.
No problem. So yeah, like I said, we're going to. Robin says Logic is the more seasoned gamer on the panel. I think I agree with that. I think he was gaming on the earliest video game systems. Like I mean, I started with a Commodore, even though the Commodore was old at that point. It was the NES was out when I started gaming. But yeah, I agree with that.
Seasoned is that's the term you use to call somebody old without like openly and directly insulting them.
All right, I'm doing the switch over now, so it should redirect now. Are you good to go, Forte?